NutraCast.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
If we examine our thinking and our heart of hearts, it's kind of how we're thinking of how we're operating, right? Yeah. We're not taking responsibility for how we could rearrange the way we operate so that we could get better results. Because we kind of like doing things the way that we do them now.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It is another beautiful day here in North Carolina, and this episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Ignite Management Services and Liberty Strength. These sponsors help me bring these shows to you each and every week, so I encourage you to click on their links below and check them out. Also, I want to remind you that the Qualified Leadership book series, which includes all three of my best-selling leadership books, is now available on my website, johnsrennie.com. You get all three books for 15% off the Amazon and Barnes & Noble price, but this offer is only available on my website. This is the perfect Christmas gift for the leader or future leader in your family, so check it out at johnsrennie.com. Well, that is it. Today we're going to be talking about getting the important things done on your own and through others, and my guest is Scott Ward. Scott is the founder of the software company HabitStack. He is an expert in the area of goal setting, habit formation, and execution. And we sat down and talked about the problem of urgency and why it's often difficult for a team to stay focused on the important goals. Now, this was a very practical discussion that will help you navigate the distractions of daily work life and stay focused on those critical tasks. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Scott Ward. Scott is the founder of a software company called HabitStack, which, as you know, is a generous sponsor of this podcast. He has a degree in philosophy, but he spent the last 2 decades in the startup world. He's been a software developer, a tech entrepreneur coach, and the creator of a software platform that helps teams focus on important goals, even though they're extremely busy. He's an expert in the area of goal setting, strategy execution, accountability, and habit formation, and he's helped people achieve over 35,000 goals through his coaching and software. His goal is to help teams rise above the tyranny of urgent and build a habit of making important things happen. I'm excited to have him on the show to learn how we can get focused on getting the important things done. So, Scott, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, John. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, I really admire what you're up to in the world, deep leadership and the books that you've written and the different things that you're involved in. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate you being a sponsor to the show, because if it wasn't for you, we couldn't bring these important messages to all our listeners. So this partnership is important. And I'm a true believer in what you're doing as well. So it's like I said, it's an honor to have you on the show to talk about what you're working on, and especially HabitStack, which is such a phenomenal program. So we'll touch on that a little bit. But just in general, I want to have you on because we are facing, as you say, or as I said in the introduction, this tyranny of the urgent. So we are focused on the urgent, and there's so many important things that don't get done when we're faced with urgency. So that's kind of where I want to spend some time, talk a little bit about the habits and how we get accountability with our teams. How do we develop the right habits? How do we break free of the urgency and focus on the importance? Because at the end of the day, leadership is about motivating people to get things done, right? Not about doing the urgent things. It's about getting the important things done. So So that's why I want to get on the show, because I think this is such an important topic for our listeners. And these, leaders of all stripes are trying to get things done. So, and this is something that you're an expert in. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show. So let's get into it right away. So, why have goals and habits? Why has that captured your interest?
I've been coaching leaders since about 2009, and one of the things that happened as I was early in my career there was that I noticed that we would talk about things that they wanted to accomplish, and they were great, they were amazing, they were wonderful things that they wanted to do, and then we would say we would end the call, and we would come back the next week, and I would ask them about it, and they may or may not, often not, have made any progress on it, Yeah. And so, and then that would go on week to week, and then sometimes, to be honest, even I, as the coach, would forget what exactly they were working on, and so it became an interesting area for me to think about and to observe that this very fundamental human experience, right? That we have these ideas. We have these insights, like, if I were to do that, things would be better forever. Mm. And then we go out and we don't do the things that we see. And so to me, this is very interesting. And this is why it's captured my interest, I think. It's just because you're right. We do get busy. We attempt to do too much, and there's kind of various reasons for it, but there's also a lot of psychology around it. Of this very interesting phenomenon. We do not do the things that we know would make things better for ourselves. Mm. That's fascinating to me. I mean, you would think that if we saw it, we would do it, but of course we don't. And not to spill the beans too early, but I think in the end, it turns out that it has to do with something that starts with H and rhymes with rabbits. It has to do with our habits, because it's not just knowing a thing or seeing or having an idea. It's who we are and how we operate, and the little minute decisions that we make moment to moment that really make up whether or not we execute on the things that we have the capacity to. I mean, we're so eager to reach our potential, and so this is a real live question for people, right? They almost have they know that there's more is possible, but they don't know exactly. But it feels also like it's impossible at the same time.
Yeah.
And so this is, I think the shorter answer to your question is just that it turned out to be intriguingly complex and a very human problem. And so it's fascinated me for quite a few years now.
It's interesting because as you say that, as an individual, we face those we work on the things that we know what we need to do, but we work on other things, right? So that happens on an individual basis. What I've observed is it happens on a company-wide basis. So you have a group of individuals now who are working on things that are urgent necessarily and not necessarily what's important. And as a leader, it's frustrating because you come to a meeting and you're like, okay, so we agree these 5 things that get done. Where are we at? And you find out, this happened. Everything got in the way of accomplishing. So part of it too, as well, is not just even, at least as a leader, I've found, is not just even managing my own habits, but it's managing the habits of the entire organization. And then now you're multiplying the effect of, I've got a serious problem here if I can't develop the habits in the entire organization to not be distracted with the urgent, right? So I think that's where I see it is even a bigger problem as you extend it out to the entire organization. So how do you get a team focused and accountable to get things done that we commit to? That's a difficult thing to do as a leader.
It is, and to connect those two parts that you're describing is difficult to do for ourselves and for the team. And in fact, but here's the thing, right? Is it's highly unlikely to happen in the team if it doesn't happen with ourselves first.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So the biggest tool, or the biggest is developing our own capacity for focus, for calm productivity, for prioritizing relentlessly. We have to tend to the urgent. If we have to keep the lights on, we have to pay our taxes, and we have to create the quote that we need to do. And what are all the day-to-day things? We have to do those things. We don't want to denigrate those things. It's important to work on those things, obviously. But if we ourselves are not operating thoughtfully and prioritizing the way that we would want our team to, what hope do they have? They're taking their cues from us. But you're right. It's not just a problem that is an individual thing. It's a team thing. And of course, that's where the payoff is really big too, right? Imagine the value of a bunch of people operating together and having a shared set of habits that they use to execute against a shared set of goals. So magic starts to happen then.
Yes. That's why I get excited about the message you're bringing, because I think that's one of the things that if a leader can figure that out, they can get a lot more done than your average leader dealing with what can be often chaos in an organization. So how do you get focus, alignment, accountability towards the big things that need to get done? If you can figure that out, then as you said, it's a multiplying effect. You have everybody rowing in the same direction, so to speak, and you're going to get more things done. And I think that's where that's the role of a leader, is get alignment and get accountability and have focus on the right priorities. I was going to ask you, so you've worked with a lot of teams. What have you observed, and what have you learned, and how has that affected your thinking on this subject?
One of the things that has been really interesting to observe is just this phenomenon that the approach that we take to things can really impact the amount of progress that we make. It's not just about willpower and trying hard and forcing ourselves or forcing others. If we think about, there's some really powerful examples. You think about Toyota and Kaizen, right? Like, they didn't have more resources, or they didn't have they had a lot of disadvantages actually. But they were able to organize themselves in such a way that they won. Yeah. In many ways, at least different stages and times. That's fascinating, right? That's fascinating. It wasn't about, and so, and the parallel maybe is you hear a lot when people feeling overwhelmed and over busy, and that there's things, important things that aren't getting done, and goals that are not getting enough love and attention. It's, we need to hire more people. This is the problem. We need to hire more people. And I don't want to say that, of course, that's often part of the solution is people power, but how you organize yourself is also a big part of it. Another example is in software. We went from waterfall to agile, and that kind of unlocked a bunch of really powerful results. And so I guess the thing that I learned by observation with teams is that without having different people, without having more people, here's hope, that we can actually shift things around and organize ourselves in such a way, take a certain approach, build certain habits that we can do more and better strategic work just by being thoughtful about those things without having to make more dramatic changes than that. So that's one observation that I think should serve people as a sign of hope and also accountability and responsibility, right? Let's not just say that it's an externalized problem. We just need more money and we need more people. That's the problem. We're awesome. We're operating at full optimized capacity. The problem is not internal. We don't need to improve. We just need more people and more money. That's a tough. Nobody says that, but if we examine our thinking and our heart of hearts, it's kind of how we're thinking of how we're operating, right? Yeah. We're not taking responsibility for how we could rearrange the way we operate so that we could get better results. Because we kind of like doing things the way that we do them now. And
this is what fascinates me about the idea of habits, and is that it's like eating, so what's comfortable is, maybe, having some food that's maybe not so healthy. There's donuts in the break room. Maybe you get some pizza for dinner. And it's comfortable, right? This is the way we're comfortable. And we add weight. So we slow ourselves down when we're not doing the right habits, right? But it's comfortable. It's easy. What's not easy is having some discipline where we have good and healthy habits and we eat the right way. When we do, we're actually, if we feel better, we operate better, right? We look better, and we feel better about ourselves. But it's work, it's effort, it's not comfortable, right? And I think some of that is affected with the things that we do. I've noticed this, in 30 years running teams, we do what's comfortable, what we like to do. So we look at our to-do list and we're like, that's easy. I'm going to do that one. That one's fun. I'm going to do that one. This one over here where I got to write an eval on this guy that's not really doing that well, that's going to take some effort. I'm going to put that off till tomorrow. So we do what's comfortable and not necessarily what's important. So sometimes it's not the urgent; it's the comfortable that gets us sometimes.
Oh, I think that's such an important point, John. I really appreciate that you brought that up. I think the one of the nature of strategic work is that it's filled with ambiguity and the need for people to say, I'm going to do this even though I'm not sure it's going to work, and I'm going to make decisions without enough information, and all. It is a very vulnerable type of work to do, and so maybe I should make that more concrete. Like if the strategic work that I'm thinking of are things like, maybe you can share some examples in your mind too, John, but we have this one marketing channel that works really well, and we need a second one. What is it going to be? What is it going to be? How are we going to double our growth over the next several years? Because we can't do it with this current channel. Okay. I don't know. That's a big, hairy, complicated, fraught. It is very fraught with high likelihood of failure. And so if I have some time and today to work on things, and I have that to work on, or I have some design tweaks because I like design or something, and I noticed something on the website. I don't know. It's real easy to say, well, boy, immediately that looks better on the website, and I got some payoff. And so this delayed gratification is the big part of what makes it difficult to work on important things, because it's not immediate. We don't get immediate positive feedback. And it's filled with potential for failure. What about you, John? What are some other, when you say strategic goals, strategic work, how do you distinguish that from operational things? What's the litmus test?
So you've got a great example of that. I actually had a boss one time, brand new guy came into our organization. We had 70% market share in a business I was running. We were killing it, right? So I had grown the business. I've doubled the business. We had 70% market share. And this guy shows up as the new boss. First thing he says to me is, how can you double your revenue?
Right.
And I'm like, we're 70% market share. You're an idiot, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
But he basically challenged us. He said, come back. I want you to come back in a month. I want a plan how to double the business. And I remember thinking that this guy, it was frustrating, right? But what it ended up happening is our team spent a lot of time thinking about this. What is he talking about? How do we double the revenue? But I remember our marketing manager said in one meeting, he said, well, maybe we're thinking about our products wrong. Maybe if we think of not just the specific product, but what the product does, it opens up what the market is that we could possibly serve. And maybe we were doing current transformers and voltage transformers. He said, maybe we should get into current voltage sensing. And we all went, oh, shoot, like we never thought of that, right? But it was one of and then we had to put together a plan around that. Okay, now we're going to build this sensing business out of nothing, right? And so, these are the things that were truly strategic, truly going to change who we were in the market. And that's what I would call something that's truly strategic, truly something different that we were going to do. And it was all because of a leader challenging us to think, well, honestly, he challenged us to double the business, but it made us think differently about the possibilities of our business. And so, those are the fun things but there are also the difficult things, and there's the unknowns. Like, well, nobody here knows anything about sensing, so we need to find somebody who knows something about sensing, right? And how big is the market? Nobody knows. We know how big this market is. We've been doing it for 40 years. So I think that's what I'm talking about. It's when you're outside of your comfort zone, outside of your, what you know, and you're dealing with the unknowns. That's where it gets really uncomfortable because you don't have a lot of experience in that area.
Right. And this is when you need you need the support of a structure and supportive accountability from the team, and something that's concrete in terms of what we're shooting for, to help us get over that. Because if it's all vague and ambiguous, it's hard to bring ourselves to do those uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And so this is a part of what I think, what I was talking to before, the habits, but also the approach to the work can really change the outcomes. These are some of the pieces of the puzzle that need to be in place in order to help ourselves and help our team to do this work. One of the things that your story makes me think of is such a powerful way that goals work, especially if you're willing to interact with them in a work back from them instead of work forward. This is a mental mind shift that a lot of people set goals by kind of extrapolating what's already the case and what probably they could accomplish if things continue roughly as is with some increment. And there's certain situations where maybe budgeting, it's not a bad thing to, there's certain situations where, you should let the past inform the future. Mm-hmm. But for strategic goals, for things, game-changing type breakthrough work that you wanted to do, we got to start with the end and then work backwards. Well, because the first, you've got an exciting thing on the table when the first response is like, well, that's impossible. You can, just like you said, with we all did.
I remember going to the team and they all said, that's impossible. And I'm like, yes, I know, but the boss says we got to figure it out,
That's what, and so this is where the psychology comes in too. You see people just kind of shut down in that situation.
Yeah.
And what we need to encourage each other to do is to not shut down, are we liable to fail in this situation? Yeah. We're more liable to not succeed this. But this is fun. This is joyful. This is like it's an invigorating thing when we have something that we didn't think we could do it.
Yeah.
But then we thought and we worked and we supported each other and we did it. That's really fun. That's a very life-giving thing. And so I think people see goals as kind of something that to be afraid of, or that exposes them to possible failure, and it does in a way. But we just have to kind of make sure that our entire identity is not wrapped up in that goal. Our portfolio of what makes us who we are is bigger than that. But it is fun to have something very concrete that we could fail or succeed or fail out. And the other thing about goals that I think is related to this is that one thing that I've observed with teams and with individuals who get really good at setting goals is that it actually reduces stress. It is not
I love this point. I love this point. Yeah.
It's not first and foremost a mechanism. It's not a whip to get us to work harder. We're already working hard, and it is actually a shield from overwhelm.
Yes.
It makes decisions easier.
Yes.
Right? It allows us to reflect more deeply and less often.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're not every moment we're rethinking, or every day we're rethinking, well, what is the most important thing for me to be doing right now? That's a lot of work. That's a lot of rework over and over again to try to figure out what the priorities should be. No, we've got to think more deeply, but less often. on a cadence, right? There's a weekly cadence and a monthly cadence and a quarterly cadence and a yearly cadence. And if we do a thorough job with that sequence, it frees us up to do our best work with a lot less stress, actually, and a lot more cover for the decisions that we make and for the way that we spend our time.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
As a leader, you're responsible for the mission and the people assigned to you. Regardless of the size of your team, employees are depending on you for their lives and careers. For the sake of your team and the people who entrust you with this role, you need to master the skills to become a great leader. Best-selling leadership author John Rennie is proud to introduce the Qualified Leadership book series. This new series teaches you how to become a people-centered leader. Great leaders know that employees who are respected, appreciated, and allowed to grow will go the extra mile. These books provide real-world leadership wisdom written from a hands-on perspective. If you want to be a more effective leader, this is the one book series you should read this year. This 3-book series contains the following best-selling leadership books: I Have the Watch, You Have the Watch, and All in the Same Boat for one low price of $39.99. Begin your journey to become a leader worth following. Go to johnsrennie.com and get your order in today.
This episode is brought to you by Ignite Management Services. Ignite is led by Mike Watson, who you might remember from episode 137. Mike and his team believe that everything starts with leadership, whether it's strategy execution or cultural transformation. It's the role of the leader to create the conditions for their people to succeed. The team at Ignite can help you develop critical habits to enhance your leadership capability and transform your business. Ignite Management is now offering the Resilient Leadership Assessment Tool. This is an online questionnaire designed to assess and guide leadership development, coaching, and team building. It provides leaders an opportunity to gain insights into their leadership strengths and development needs. After taking this assessment, you will receive a custom, detailed report that provides practical and actionable recommendations to enhance your effectiveness. I have taken this assessment myself and found it to be extremely valuable in helping me make changes to my leadership approach. Right now, Ignite is offering 15% off the price of this tool to the deep leadership audience. Go to ignitemanagement.ca and enter the code START15 at checkout to get started today. This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Clevenger at Liberty Strength. As a high-performing leader, you know that leadership isn't about telling people what to do, it's about leading by example. And for most people, the one area that they are lacking when it comes to leading by example is their health and fitness. By improving your health and fitness, every other area of your life improves. Your energy skyrockets, your sleep improves, your confidence increases, and more. But how can you get and stay fit as a busy leader? Well, you do what you've always done. You hire the best people for the job. Don't struggle on your own. Put Liberty Strength in your corner. Jeremy and his team will work with you to take your physique, mindset, nutritional habits, and more to the next level with his step-by-step, all-inclusive coaching program. I've worked with Liberty Strength for the past 2 years, and I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm still hitting strength personal records at 56 years old. If you want to step up your game, reach out to Jeremy at libertystrengthtx.com to find out more and get your initial consultation scheduled with him today.
One of the things I notice, I think it's a really important point you bring up, because one of the things I notice with teams is when the goals aren't clear and not clearly communicated, then we tend to, so you have a good group of people working together and they all want to, they all think they're doing the best for the business.
Yeah.
And so in their effort to do the best, what they think is best for the business, they come in conflict with their peers, right? So, the finance guys wants the inventory as low as possible. The operation guys wants to raise inventory to get the on-time delivery, right? And the marketing guy agrees with the operations guys because he wants to gain more business, so he has to get shorter lead times. So I need more inventory. So you have conflict that develops within the team. Good people trying to do the right thing will come into conflict until the leader makes it clear, here's what our goal is. And so that now they have a backdrop with the team as a backdrop of which to make decisions on. We say our primary goal is to have the shortest lead times in the business. What does that mean? Well, it means that we may have to bump inventory up or come up with a better way to produce our products quicker so that we can respond to the market faster than our competitors. Okay, what does that look like? So in other words, it prioritizes the decision-making and it focuses the decision-making, and it takes away some of that internal team conflict, which is naturally going to occur because everyone's silo is precious to them, in terms of what their focus is, right? So I think that's one of the areas I see when you do clarify the goals and you get everybody aligned to the goals, and there's actually less of the noise, the typical organizational noise. And a lot of times I come into an organization when I first take over, there's a lot of chaos. And I notice it's because the prior leader had been absent, when I call absent, which means they weren't putting the rudder in the water, and the ship was kind of drifting, and everybody was fighting amongst each other because they were thinking about the best way to steer the ship. What needed to happen was that the captain needed to put the rudder in the water, and that was the big thing, to focus and align the team. So I think that reduces stress when you do that.
I love that. I think you're bang on there. I mean, and in fact, there's 15 best ways to run the company. Somebody has to choose. There's lots of wonderful ways to grow and options before you, but somebody has to choose. One of the things, I don't know if you know this, John, but over the last 100 years, there's been about 1,000 studies into goals and goal setting.
Wow.
It is one of the most well-documented and researched interventions into productivity ever. And so, and one of the findings, there's lots of different findings, but one of the findings, and by the way, the findings are very strong that it works really well. Goals make a difference. And so, but one of the findings that I thought was fascinating is that under most circumstances, they actually couldn't find a negative impact to a leader assigning goals, as opposed to them being collaboratively grown together. It can work. I mean, that's not apart from gathering input, and it can. There's contexts where it can work for a collaborative goal setting process, which is kind of our default these days. And I think there's a lot of good things about that. But the evidence, the research bears out that it is very workable for the leader to say, this is the goal. This is the goal that we're going to go after, as long as everybody understands it and also agrees that it's a reasonable way to proceed. Like if they completely feel or they're opposed to it, then it's not going to work. But it's not fundamentally not going to work if for a leader to say, yeah, this is the goal. I'm going to make a choice about what we're going to proceed, how we're going to proceed. There's some nuances to it. And you got to, it is important you got to be sensitive, et cetera, and you got to take people into account. But that stood out to me as the research was pretty clear on that point, which was was fascinating.
It's interesting because I think I tend to, the way I manage a team typically is we're trying to do something new. I'll bring the team in and we'll brainstorm.
Right.
Bring as many people as I can that have good ideas on the subject, and we brainstorm around different ideas. And then I try to see that we coalesce around one theme or one idea. And so the reason I like to do that is because I think there's a level of ownership. Like if an employee's idea makes it to the final cut, now they're have a real ownership in it. But regardless, all that goes into, a big pot. But at the end of the day, the leader has to then say, this is what we're going to do. So I've heard everything. I've weighed all the options. I've talked to all the experts within the company, maybe even outside the company with our sales force and what have you. But here's what I've decided to do. And I think at the end of the day, someone has to make a decision and someone has to set the direction. And I think to your point, even if you don't go through that iterative process, I think the team still wants the leader to make a decision. Where are we headed? What's next? Where are you steering the ship towards? I think that's something they want to see.
that has been my observation too. That there's a way in which leaders can abdicate and just say, well, I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to be heavy-handed, and so I hired good people. They should tell me what the goals are.
Yeah.
And but the problem is, of course, is that a coherent strategy. These things need to mesh together well, and there's actually 15 different wonderful things that you could do, and so. It's not that there is one best thing that everybody's going to arrive at together. It needs some leadership, and so it's important. It's important to lead in that way. I think one thing that goes on as well is that there could be an overestimation. So setting clear goals is super important. Also, not magic. There can be an overestimation of how effective it will be to have clear goals, because of course we've all had this experience where we all set a goal for ourselves, even, or for the team, and then we forgot about it, and nothing really happened. And so the secondary responsibility that the leader has is to build in the supports and the processes that bring that goal, or the set of goals, into people's minds, sets expectations for the actions and how we're going to measure progress, and what engagement with that goal looks like. What does execution look like in our organization? Because a lot of these things we don't have. We need to develop some leading indicators about whether or not just about whether or not we're going to achieve the goal, but whether or not it's getting any attention at all.
Yes.
We actually couldn't answer that question. A lot of times we can't answer that question.
Yes. No, that's part of my frustration as being a leader all these years, is that we set a goal and there's like sub goals and everybody's supposed to be working on things, but how do I know it's being done? And, maybe every follow-up meeting is every week. And I don't know a week later, like, how we made progress or not. So, I think one of the reasons I like HabitStack and what you're doing is like it's a systematic way to put all the goals in one place. There's accountability, there's visibility, there's like you get everybody on the same page, everybody goes and can see the same thing. So there's an element of it that's it provides me, because like they call it the fog of war. Sometimes there's a fog, and I don't know what's going on, but I assume everything's going right. I get to a meeting and it's not right. So I think what I need is this way to see through that fog. And one of the ways is having tools like HabitStack, where I can see what's going on. I can see the progress being made. I can follow up even before a meeting is done, saying, "Hey, I noticed this is this one thing's falling behind. Is there anything I can do to help to resolve that?" So we're not waiting a week before things get done. So I think there has to be, to your point, there has to be some sort of structure in place. Otherwise, it's hard to keep people accountable, and it's hard to have visibility where everybody can go to one place and see the same message. That's the one struggle I've always had over the years. And I've been doing it for 30 years. So you can imagine, like, some of the software was really basic 30 years ago. We have whiteboards and, we're doing our best, right? But now I think with what we have with software development and tools, modern tools, I'm excited to see that there's better ways to do it than what I've been trying to do over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is the promise. I mean, the tooling is getting better and better, and also it's always going to be a human challenge. Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned accountability, and I think this is something that humans find it difficult to stay accountable to a computer. It's easier, not easy, but it's more effective when we're accountable to another person. And I'm curious what what have you seen in terms of accountability? What's worked for you in terms of holding people accountable? Let me back up. Yeah. Accountability is kind of complicated too, right? Because it's a wild and woolly world. Is somebody going to accomplish their quarterly goal or not? Are we going to? Well, there's a lot of internalities, but there's a lot of externalities too that influence whether or not they're going to achieve that. And so I think people worry or they struggle with, I want to hold the team, I want to hold people accountable to results. That seems like what I'm supposed to do as the boss. And yet, it's not all their fault when things don't work out. And so what is accountability? How do I do accountability in that environment when it's so dynamic? It's more complex than just, you did or did not accomplish this thing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the most effective tool I've ever used over the years, I call it a RAIL. It's a rolling action item list. And so it's what our senior management team is working on at any point in time. And it comes about as we, attack an issue, as we have, regular staff meetings. And so we say, oh, shoot, we've got a KPI that's out, right? Scrap on one of the lines is going up. Why? So quality manager, your job, figure out what's going on. Let's get a report back next week. And so I've always kept a rolling action item list with my team. And these are the things that we're working on. And so that's our level of accountability, is come back to the team. We set a date for, when can you get it done, Joe? Hey, I can get it in 2 weeks. All right, 2 weeks. We put it on the schedule. And so we use that as a way to hold each other accountable because in there, some things may be assigned to me, right? Sure. And so we as a team hold each other accountable with that rolling action item list. And so that's the one thing I've seen effective, is just having the team know that that's going to come up. We're going to bring that spreadsheet up every meeting, and we're going to go through this. So I think it's not about letting me down, it's about letting the team down if you don't get something done. But then, over the years, I've seen where things do come, changes happen, and we have to adjust the schedule and what have you. And we tend to, just like any other team, push dates out, Right. And that's the trouble, is you keep pushing dates out. Yeah.
Well, I think you're on to the heart of it there. One way to think about accountability is in terms of accounting, or making an account for what happened, good or bad. Just this is what you're asking everybody to say. Like, did you get it done? Yes, I did. No, I did it. What happened? Just knowing that you're going to have to report. It's like in accounting, in an accounting department, they just say, well, the money went here and here, and we're short on money because of this and that. And, it's more about just being transparent about what has happened. And I think that that helps, right? Because it's not about yelling at people when they didn't achieve the right goal. The vast majority of people, it's more than sufficient. That level of accountability is more than sufficient, right? They're going to write. They want to perform well, and so just knowing that they're going to have to confess the good and the bad, that's enough. I think another thing that we can hold each other accountable to is learning, right? It is okay. So let's say this quarterly goal didn't go well. We didn't achieve this quarterly goal. What we don't want is to just carry on into the next quarter and repeat similar mistakes. What we want to do is to say, okay, well, so if you had to do the quarter over again, what would you do? It would be good to have an answer to that. Well, I think, it turns out there was these gotchas at the very end, and if I had to do it over, I would have checked on those things in the first couple of weeks of the quarter, and so I could have got ahead of it or whatever. And then you say, okay, great. Are you planning to do that this quarter? Yeah, I am. Okay, great. So I think it's okay for us to hold each other accountable to that kind of exchange, right? That we're trying to bake in new habits and take the learnings into the next period. So hopefully that's a way that people can kind of get out of the bind, right? So accounting, just making an account, sharing what has happened without recasting our failures as successes, because they're not necessarily. It's okay that we didn't achieve everything. It's okay. But we do need to clearly account for it. and then taking responsibility to think about the internal reasons, because there's always a mix, right? There's some external reasons, but there's always ways that I could have done it differently and better, and we should be trying to identify those. And so I think that's the second part that we can, another avenue that we can be more confident in what we're holding each other accountable for, and not feel bad about it, because it's just taking a moment to learn from things.
Yeah, absolutely. So such an important subject that we talked about today. I think we talk about goals. We talked about the importance of accountability. These things are just critical for the business. And I think you've given, Scott, us a lot of things to think about as it relates to it. And I think, like I said, leaders should be seeking out tools and methods to be able to, first of all, you have to be able to set goals. You have to be able to communicate goals. But then you have to have some systematic way to be able to, again, have some accountability with your team, and also have some, like what you just said, have some group learning about when you fail, what are you going to do differently? And we as an organization, how did we fail? We as an organization, what are we going to do differently? These are really critical to our effectiveness as a leader. So this has been fantastic, Scott. I was just wondering, how can listeners find out more about you and the HabitStack program we've been talking about?
All the information that you to your heart's content is at habitstack.com. Yeah, just go to habitstack.com. There's a free account there that people can check it out, and also have this information, support docs and whatnot, and some articles. So yeah, that's the spot, the website.
All right, it's that simple, habitstack.com. Listeners, here's the deal. If you want to keep your team focused, you want to have better habits, you want to get things done, I know everybody's busy, I encourage you to check out habitstack.com. I really think, I played around with it. It's super easy. I'm using it now, and it's I'll tell you what, you can get things done. And for me, at least, it's less stress. We have less stress when everything's in one place. I can visibly see it. All the team members can visibly see it. We're on the same page. And I think it's the idea of all of us rowing in the same direction. It creates a lot less stress, a lot less friction. So I highly encourage listeners that you check out habitstack.com. Reach out to Scott if you've got some questions, because he's got a lot of good thoughts on the subject. And man, it's just been a fantastic conversation. Scott, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being a sponsor of the show. And thanks for this perspective that you gave us today.
You know what, John? It's been a real pleasure. I admire, again, what you're up to, and keep up the good work. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Keep up the good work too, Scott. I think HabitStack is fantastic. So, well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Welcome to the Reverie Channel, where entertainment knows no bounds. Live concerts, on-demand music, documentaries, and short films, all in stunning HD. Now on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Immerse yourself from home. And on Android and iOS for those on the move. Support creators with crowdfunding donations. Fuel their creativity. Join us in shaping entertainment's future. The Reverie Channel, where every view, every donation matters.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the WannaBet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but WannaBet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electricast.